We are going to continue on with the books that I bought during the book fair. Now, the book fair normally lasts 3 weeks, more or less. So in those 3 weeks, I visit the book fair 6 times. At the beginning of the book fair, it's when the majority of the signings occur. Normally the international signings occur. This is the Spanish cover of Still Star-Crossed by Melinda Taub. I'm hoping I'm saying it right, I'm not quite sure. I haven't heard of this author before, but when the Spanish publisher company called Nocturna decided to translate it and presented it this kind of mystery, romantic, and yet reminiscent of a Shakespeare cover, and I started doing research about it, I discovered that this is a continuation of the events told in Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. In this story, and this is what caught me, Melinda Taub decided to explore what happens after the events of the play. This is after Romeo and Juliet are dead. Romeo and Juliet is not my favorite play of the ones that I've read by William Shakespeare. Probably because my expectations were too high, that when I read the play 3 years ago, I didn't enjoy it as much. I didn't understood why it was so relevant and romantic when I prefer, I don't know, Hamlet or Much Ado About Nothing, and we're going to go with the comedy side. However, I find the idea of the families very like quarreling against one another trope very endearing, and I decided to give it a go, mainly because even though I didn't like that much of the tragedy, I want to know what happened next. Now, I'm going to show you a book that I was really highly anticipating, and that's because it has a lot to do with a project that I'm still working on, like for 4 years now. This is the Spanish copy of The Silence of the Girl by Pat Baker. Pat Baker, I think, is an English historian who, in this book, that is an adult fiction book, writes a retelling of the Iliad, where if you have read the Iliad more or less basically tells the story of the Trojan War, or what happened in the Trojan War. The Iliad is written in verse by Homer, but in this version we read it in prose, centering, instead of having the focus on the male heroes or male soldiers, we have the focus or the attention in the spotlight in the women. So in this story, apparently we follow, I think it's Briseis, one of the Trojan women that are basically conquered by the Greeks when the Greeks take the city, but I believe the other women also appeared in this narration. So thank you, Jean, for recommending this to me. By the way, this cover is gorgeous, and it's not as heavy as I thought it would be, but I will tell you more about it once I read it. Now, one thing you don't know is that, for me, the most spectacular and the featured of the book fair that I love the most is not buying books that you also have seen already that I bought too many, but I love going to signings, not because having a book signed by my favorite author. I love going to signings because I have the opportunity of meeting these people. And since I joined BookTube, although I'm a very tiny channel, I had the amazing experience of meeting authors either in kind of more collective events, more individual events, and I have my tiny group of authors that I love supporting, and the opportunity of chatting with them either in the signing or outside in the park when we don't have any events planned or anything to do. It's great, and one of the first people I actually had the opportunity to meet out of luck basically was Sonia Lerones Losilla. She is a new writer. She has already 2 books out. She's a Spanish writer of a YA, I think. She published her first book, which is this one, last year. This is La Posada Cima, sorry, like Cima's Inn, if I have to translate it. I met Sonia out of luck again last year when I wanted to attend to a presentation of another author called Aitziane Rodriguez, but I couldn't go to the signing because the venue wasn't very accessible, so we decided to have a tea before the event in a more kind of individual chat. And I met Sonia because she was going to moderate this event for Aitziane. In our chat, when I was talking with the author in this kind of private coffee or meeting or whatever you wanted to call it, I asked her what kind of book this was, and she told me it was inspired in the Japanese folklore and movies like the Holy Moving Castle, for example. So I decided to add it to the list, and I met her a couple of times after that, but I couldn't actually buy the book by then. But this was the timing, the perfect timing. We actually meet up in a more relaxed area of the park, and we were chatting a bit with another author I will talk about in a minute, because this other author, my friend who is also an author, and Sonia and we all gathered to chat. Sonia was as well with a few friends that were also authors, so we were chatting about books and other stuff. But because it was really close to Sonia's signing, we decided to accompany her to the signing and be the first in line to get something signed. So I decided to pick this one up. As I said, when I met Sonia, I was also with my friend Christine, who is the owner of the blog Un Diván en el Salón, where she talks about psychology and books and TV shows and TV movies and stuff. And we also met with another friend of hers that is now a friend of mine, that is Sonia Montiel Huerga. Sonia Montiel Huerga is the author of these 2 books here. This is Limón y Mora, which I already did a review of. It's the book about vampires living among humans, and I did a review of a few months ago. And this is her last novel, I believe, called Pájaros en la Cabeza, Birds in Your Head, or something along those lines, which is more realistic and about friendship and time passing and stuff like that. I met her just with Christine to have lunch and talk and things like that, and we were discussing about her books, and I already told her that I wanted this book. I wanted to buy her in person this book. So she brought the book with her, and she also gave me my personal copy of Limón y Mora, because the copy that I was showing in my review is also, it was a lended copy from Christine. So now I have 2 books by Sonia Montiel Huerga, one of them which I already read and really like, and the other one which is a treat for me that I really wanted to read. Talking about meeting authors, this year I had the opportunity to meet an international author that has become very quickly one of my favorite authors, and I'm going to leave this here. She is Victoria Schwab, or V. Schwab. She's known for Vicious, also for the Monsters of Verity duology that consists of This Savage Song and are their duet, I believe. And also she's known for the Shades of Magic trilogy. I have read Vicious, and I still have to read Vengeful, which is the sequel to Vicious. I have read The Sabbath Song, and I still have to buy the sequel to that, and I have the first 2 installments in the Sage of Magic trilogy. I don't know how to talk today, but this beautiful blue purplish cover book, it's the Near Witch, or at least it's the Spanish translation of the Near Witch. This is Victoria Schwab's first novel, and for what I know, it was out of print, or you couldn't find it until very recently, and I'm very glad that it's my first Spanish copy of her books, because the other books that I mentioned before that I own are actually in English. And to me, meeting her was very, very important, because not only I love her writing, but her books arrived to me in a really important time, in a time where I was doubting of what I wanted to do, and these put me in the right path regarding writing. And I loved having the opportunity of seeing her and talking to her face to face, mainly because for the last 3 years, that's the time I've been reading her and learning from her so much. I only saw her through conferences, video conferences that I could find, or interviews that other booktubers did, and things like that. So having her face to face, it was a privilege, and it's mainly my most highlighted and treasured moment of the fair. So Victoria, I don't think you watched this, but if you do, thank you for making my day, my month, and my year. Lastly, from this kind of slot or a stack of books that I wanted to show you, I have another Spanish written book by Alba Quintas García, a very well-known young author who published in Spanish. So at least for now, this book was released in January, but I couldn't buy it until now, and this is particularly important because it's a contemporary book regarding the Me Too movement and feminism. I don't know much more than that, but in my experience with this author, I prefer not to read anything about. I just basically dive straight into it, because her prose is very engaging, and I don't want to have any preconceived ideas about the plot, to let myself be surprised by it. So this is the first part of the book fair book haul, which is like the second part of the complete book haul that I wanted to show you, because the rest of the books I want to show you today are more like books that I found along the way, or books that I discovered that I wanted to actually buy, and I didn't have time to do it over the year. So this is going to be a little bit hard, so that's why I'm dividing it in parts, but I hope you're enjoying it so far.